Hey guys, it's Kelly from Kelly's Astrology here, and I'm sitting down with my dear friend Cassandra, CassandraTyndall.com, and it's my pleasure to talk with her today. Cass and I have known each other since we were a lot younger, I guess, since we had many less grey hairs than at least what I do now. We met in Sydney years ago when we were both still studying astrology, didn't we, Cass?
Yeah. So I'm thinking it was like maybe 2004.
Oh my gosh, such a long time. We were still all in our 20s then too, actually. That's how much longer ago it was.
And now I'm officially in my 40s.
So, yeah, and I'm not far behind you. So Cass and I are going to try to do our best to stay semi-professional today. Usually when we get together, we're in the same country, we're even in the same house or restaurant, and there's a lot of wine or chocolate consumed. But right now I'm in Canada and Cass is in Queensland, where she lives in Australia. But we're going to talk today about Mars Cazimi, the sun in Leo, which we're both quite excited about. Cass, this was a topic that you're quite curious about. What's going on for you there?
Totally. Well, as we just sort of hinted, I've just had a 40th birthday and a couple of weeks ago, and as an astrologer, of course, I love birthdays and I really love to celebrate my own as well as anybody else's. But this year just felt different, and it took me a little bit, I guess, sometimes astrologers make, they're like doctors, doctors make the worst patients. Astrologers sometimes don't see the obvious in their own charts. And I was sort of thinking, why am I so not into this birthday? I don't have an issue with the age, I don't, which I guess as a sideline, I have noticed that people born at night, I have night sect charts, don't seem to have an issue with their 40s because they go into a Venus period as in terms of their Fadaria, instead of Saturn. Okay.
Yes. So, yeah, they're the options, Venus or Saturn.
Yeah. So just a little kind of thing I've noticed is that it's the day births that seem to dread Saturn or dread 40s, and they're like looking in the mirror going, and feel very hard on themselves about the age. But maybe that's another of the Fadaria of turning 40 is a different topic. But, so I didn't have any issues with the age, didn't have any issues with the number. And I thought, well, I'm making my first overseas trip next year to speak at UAC in Chicago, which is just prior to my 41st. So am I just kind of going to sort of, just glaze over this birthday and sort of inject it all into the following year? And I was like, yeah, it's a whole year away. Like, why? That's not the reason. And I thought, my son's birthday is tomorrow, so his birthday is just 2 weeks after mine. Perhaps it's, now that I'm a mum, it all is about the kids. I'm like, yeah, nah, that's not enough.
That's not it.
That's not it. And it was through teaching some of my own students about secondary progressions, and I was just doing some, off the top of my head stuff about my own life. And then I thought, hang on, I should have a look. And turns out my progressed moon is currently on my south node in my 11th house. So I wasn't really feeling the celebratory vibe. But that's a personal thing in my own chart. But it got me looking at Mars being the ruler of all of that. What's Mars doing in the sky right now? And
because your south node's in Aries, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So your progressed moon had come up to hit the south node.
Yeah, it's applying currently.
Okay.
A couple of months off. So, it wasn't. It's I guess, especially in the 11th house, it's not exactly, Mars coming to good joy in the north node. I would have probably had a massive celebration in that. And so it just sort of made me realize the importance of, these cycles. And I guess there was a compounding effect with where Mars is at the moment in the sky. And I guess to liken it, it's like it's in his balsamic moon phase or his dark moon phase, where he's in a real private part of his cycle, where it is a little bit more hermit-like, a little bit more contemplative, which has been a really big part of the last little chunk of my life, the last month or so in particular, last couple of months. And so even though the balsamic moon phase isn't or, the balsamic Mars phase in this case, is sort of not really conducive to kicking goals or doing the Mars sort of stuff.
Very Aussie saying, yes.
But there's still that anticipation that, more is to come. And for everybody that is like, when is that going to happen? We're looking at the end of this month where Mars will join the sun. And I don't believe I know. I listened. You, Austin, and Chris discussed that in the July forecast for your podcast, which is fantastic. And so, that added another layer of my thought process to this cycle of Mars, because, as I'm sure many of you know, it's a 2-year cycle. So 1 year he's retrograde and the other year he goes through this renewal or rebirth. And so the fact that he's doing this sort of balsamic type of last leg of his tour in Cancer is sort of really making it even less dynamic, or, even more kind of, and I've got this flu, sort of congested, cancery stuff that just kind of is dying to kind of get dried out.
Yeah, so Mars right now is in Cancer. We're recording this. It's the 11th of July or 12th of July for you in Australia. Yeah. So we're recording on 2 different days. How magical. Yep. And Mars is in Cancer, and he is combust or under the sunbeams. He's close to the sun or moving closer, getting closer to the sun, but not there yet. So what you're saying, Cass, is the conjunction, which will be the Kazemi of the sun and Mars, which happens, I think, around the 26th, 27th of July in early Leo. Yeah. That is like the new moon or the seed planting of the Mars cycle. So Mars gets kind of infused. And I've heard that analogy before, actually, when planets conjunct the sun. It's like they go through this transformation process. They go through the purifying fire. And they gather that energy for the next cycle. And for Mars, that's a 2-year cycle.
Totally. And I guess, just prior to us recording this actual session, we were talking about your recent holiday for your sister's wedding and how you've come back. So, you've actually had a holiday where you feel, totally rejuvenated. And so I guess this is a little bit like what this Kazemi feel can be like. You have a really beautiful, restful, soulful, rejuvenating holiday, and then you come back actually revitalized and recharged. For, not that you'd want to wait another 2 years for another holiday, but that's the feel. And I guess the sort of key point or the takeaway is, what is everybody's own Leo house? Where is this injection or fuel or rebirthing or purification happening for everybody? And in the sign of Leo is a lot more conducive to what Mars wants to do, as opposed to Cancer, where he's actually kind of stuck.
Yeah. So, I'm just doing a little share screen, Cass, while you're talking, so people can see the info. So the Mars Kazemi, the sun, I've got it here about 4 Leo. And so what you're saying, Cass, is that we all need to have a little look at what house in our chart 4 Leo is going to fall in, because that's where that infusion and that seeding, if you like, of Mars is going to happen at the very end of July. Yeah.
And that's sort of going to be where you can inject a little bit more focus and attention. And, I know I'm personally doing that myself at the moment, being a Leo ruling my 3rd. And so it's something to, this is the beauty of astrological cycles. It allows us to plan. Okay. It allows us to think, even before I even really contemplated at what this Kazemi period is, or this Mars cycle is all about, I was already sort of thinking, I'd like to do this, and I've got to focus on this, and, all to do with sort of writing and teaching and further learning. And then I was like, oh, yeah, duh. It's like in my
yeah. Well, the other thing too, Cass, just to throw in here, I do think it's really good. I almost wanted to call this video like all about Leo, because as soon as the sun goes into Leo around the 22nd of July, and for the month that the sun is in Leo this year, 2017, that part of our chart or that part of our sky is being hugely activated because we have a series of eclipses. We actually have we have two lunations, two new moons in Leo this year, which is unusual in itself. Yep. The first one is not an eclipse. It's like 0 Leo, and it's just a regular new moon, but it is in Leo and it is conjunct Mars. And then, of course, this gigantic eclipse around the 21st of August, which is a huge eclipse and will have a big impact, particularly in the US. But, rather than thinking about it collectively, thinking about personally, it is Leo again, and it is an eclipse that is very closely conjunct the North Node, but has Mars there as well. So it's almost like this Mars-Leo signature is really tied into these Leo eclipses. And that 4-week period from late July to late August, I think it's almost like that part of our lives, that house area, those topics just get set on fire.
Yeah, the way it feels at the moment is, you're getting towards the end of your day, and, whether you're a Samsung person like myself or you're an iPhone person, how some of when your battery begins to run out, some of this, or even if your system, you've got too many photos or what have you, and some of the system functions start to not operate correctly. And so I know myself, I've got too many photos on there at present. And so my Gmail account doesn't come through on my phone. So I've got to log into my laptop to access my emails at the moment. And so, your system starts to break down or shut down, and the screen doesn't shine as bright, and different things happen when your smartphone, do you call them the smartphones or cell phones? Yeah.
Cell phones, what they get called here, but I mean, mobile phones or...
Mobile.
Yeah, well, yeah. Mobile cell, everyone will get it. So what you're saying, Cass, is like before we get to the Kazemi, we're in this kind of winding down, that sort of tired, end of the road, end of the long week kind of energy.
100%. And I really feel that this Mars Kazemi, particularly if you do have, either a prominent Mars in your chart, which I do on a few different levels. And so then you feel it more. Okay. So motivation is low. A lot of people, clients I'm seeing, they're just finding, like they've lost their mojo. And I feel this Kazemi will just be like plugging your phone back into the charger and everything just lights up again.
Yeah.
And then you can set your intentions or set your focus on what this, what house is ruling Leo for you. And then a part of that too, because it is a nodal thing as well, it might be kind of letting go of some of the opposite house. So, your Aquarius stuff, where can you cut back or refine or be less focused on the group stuff and more focused on your own individual ability to shine, or your own goals as opposed to the collective ones. And so,
totally. Yeah. So like almost the emphasis on Leo versus on Aquarius. And we are going to have a lunar eclipse in Aquarius earlier in August. And, our friend Yasmin often talks about full moons as a time of forgiveness. And so that might be interesting, some kind of like forgiving, letting go, releasing around the Aquarius lunar eclipse early in August, partly so that you can do all of that Leo. Yeah, like I always think of Leo because it's the sign of the sun. It's like where we're supposed to really let our light out, like be true to ourselves, be authentic. So maybe that's a reflection question for people coming up to this period. The Leo area of life, if it's 3rd house or 6th house or 10th house, how can you be more authentic in that area?
100%. And particularly too, if you have a planet in Leo in your own birth chart, how is that tempering or toning the expression? And for myself, I have Saturn there.
Okay.
And so
we're so different in that regard.
I know. And so I've got Saturn in Leo. Lucky me. And,
I'm not trading you.
It sucks. And, but, I feel that, like, back when I was Saturn returning, it was like the worst thing ever to not be able to shine and stuff. But I think now, my progressed sun is also coming up to to my own natal Saturn. And so this whole Kazemi, I just feel like it's a real positive thing, if you like, but really like immense discipline for what I want to achieve. Okay. And so if anybody is of my vintage, which is sort of 1977, a bit of 78, and maybe a little bit of 76 as well, us Saturn and Leo people, it's a really unfortunate position for Saturn. Like I'm just going to put it out there. Like,
it's like an internal conflict just in the sign placement, isn't it? The planet sign combo, that Leo is so much about expressing and shining and being true to yourself and finding the right stage or platform. And Saturn has so much fear and deals with that constriction and that limitation. So yeah, it's not a happy Saturn, shall we say. It's an uncomfortable Saturn's trying to find the balance there.
Yeah. And so we've sort of got, the cold, dark Saturn with the bright, warm sun. It's just this polarity in the sky. And so for anybody that is sort of that late portion of the 1970s, I think it's a really great time to really inject some energy and infuse our own natal Saturns with the sun's vitality and Mars's energy, and really I find a lot of Saturn and Leo people do kind of lack discipline. That's something that I've witnessed. Although it's something I think we all work with, regardless of where Saturn is in our chart. As we grow older, we do. We're more comfortable with Saturn, or accepting of its, supposed limitations and stuff like that. Whereas I think in my early days, I was just like, really rebellious against him. Whereas now I have a more comfortable relationship with him, and I sort of like bring it on, and really looking forward to it. So this, I think it's a really great time. In some respects too, I feel that it is, we're all kind of in our, maybe 39, 40, 41 now. And so it's a really great time for people of this generation to really sort of like surge forward and let fears of not being good enough, or fears of shining, or fears of taking center stage, or fears of being individual, no longer going to be
I just want to get the other Saturn in Leo generation, because it'll be late 70s, but I guess it'll be, it's my dad. So the late 40s, like Dad was born in 48, and he's a Saturn in Leo guy. So maybe 1947, 48, 49. I'm just going to double check. So this could be really good if people have planets in Leo that are a little bit, that struggle to do the Leo. And then heaven help.
There's so much going on for Leo coming up, And
the point you're making, Cass, like I guess around everyone think about the planets they have in Leo, if they have any, and think about how that planet could be really in the spotlight.
I mean, you've got Jupiter in Leo, right?
Correct. I'm not trading you. I do have Jupiter in Leo, and I do love it. And it's in the way that it's configured in my chart, it's quite functional. It's very helpful. I mean, it works me like a dog, but just because it's in the 6th house and it's trying the midheaven, so it's very abundant where work is concerned. But I love it because with Jupiter, that's where you get some of your joy from.
100%.
Yeah. So it looks like Saturn went into Leo even in early 46, so kind of 46 through to late 48, I guess. So those two generations. So Jupiter in Leo, of course. There'll be the Uranus in Leo generation that's in there as well. Of course, the Pluto in Leo peeps. But even the personal planets, because I really think there's something about the boldness, if you like. Mars in a fire sign. This is sort of the last time it's going to happen this year, this calendar year, 2017. And I don't know, the combination of Sun and Mars, those two kind of heat warming yang planets being in a yang fire sign at the same time, plus the eclipses, it's all about Leo basically over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
I'm excited. And I think
Me
the key, with the Kazemi is the beginning and the seed planting. But I always think of that analogy that for people who garden, like if the seed planting is the Kazemi, the Sun and Mars coming together, but you don't see any results of the seeds right away. Like if you've ever gardened and grown tomatoes or tulips or whatever, you plant the seed and you've got to come back a couple of weeks later because the growth is happening beneath the surface of the soil initially. So that may be that August period while Mars is then moving through the combustion. And when we get Mars, decently separated from the Sun, which will really, I think, be by the time we get to September off the top of my head.
Yeah, and then Mars is sort of operating on its own terms in that respect. It's not under the beams or...
Exactly. He's become visible again. He's now ready to show his mission to the world. And that's probably going to translate to all of us getting a bit of a confidence boost or a little bit of a support or a leg up in September for the seed planting and the new beginnings that happens at the end of July.
And also too, I mean, even prior to...
I need my other ephemeris, yes.
Even prior to this seed planting analogy, it's what you do before you plant new seeds. I mean, you don't want to plant a beautiful rose garden over weeds. And so...
Correct. You've got to get that soil ready.
That's it. We've got to pluck up the weeds and churn the soil, maybe add some nutrients to it. And, bringing that at a more of a practical level, it's, what weeds are in your life currently?
Oh, I love that. That's such a good Mars and Cancer energy. How can you go and kill the weeds? And are you going to use weed killer or are you going to do it organically? Like I use boiling hot water on the weeds that come up in our front path because I refuse to spray, but everybody's different, of course. So.
And you know what? This is the exact issue I have in my house at the moment, these weeds, so... And
I love it.
Come out the other day and I was just like, what, because I hate them. I mean, who likes them really? And, those ones that kind of grow in between two slabs and they're just like, how do they go? There's just nothing there for them to grow and then they're so anchored in there.
Yes.
And so, for people, I think it's, what do they need to shed or let go of a bit, or how can they lighten their load? So, in your words, Kelly, they have that leg up or that confidence boost.
Mm-hmm.
And in Cancer, where Mars currently is, are there emotional attachments that maybe are holding you back, or family issues that are holding you back? Or, that sort of stuff. If you've got a false sense of security where really, the Cancer stuff where you need to go out on your own and
always think of what are the negatives of the sign of Cancer, for instance, because that might be what we're holding on to. Where are you being clingy? Where are you trying to hold on to your safety blanket a little too strongly right now?
Exactly.
Where you need to put your big girl pants on. Because I always think about Mars too as I'll never forget, I can't remember which teacher early in my astrological training talked about Mars as the surgeon's knife. And the idea that Mars helps with cutting. Yeah. And there is a component of Mars that can be destructive. And I think, I mean, look, I always say before we had Pluto, so many of the words the negative words, if you like, that ended up on Pluto when Pluto was discovered in the 1930s, they were actually Mars words originally. And Mars carried that as that energy. So, he's the war god, the warrior planet. And so, that idea of what do you need to destroy, and not just because you want to raise the whole place, but where are the weeds and how can you kind of apply a bit of energy? I like this analogy of the weeds.
Yeah.
And weed killing.
And I guess another point too that I think might be helpful for people is Mars, it's, has his keywords and etc. But what I guess most Western astrologers don't seem to associate with Mars is discipline.
Yep.
Now, he's sort of a bit more in Saturn's realm. I know the Indian or the Vedic astrologers do have a closer association with Mars as a planet of discipline. And I guess how it's differentiated from Saturn is we all have long-term goals, whether it's losing those 10 kilos or saving up for this holiday or house deposit or whatever it is, right? But those goals are just basically like wishes if you're not doing the daily disciplines to achieve them. Mars is often talked about motivation, and motivation wanes. If you're relying to feel motivated to achieve your outcomes, then you're probably not going to get them.
Yeah. It's because it's easy to take action when you feel inspired and motivated. The key, I think, to success or progress is actually continuing to take action when you don't feel motivated, when it's the last thing that you want to do.
And I think, sometimes I even throw the term sacrifice around Mars, because it's like, if you don't sacrifice for what you want, what you want will be the sacrifice.
Oh, and that's great. Say that again, Cass. That's really good. It's a good soundbite.
If you don't sacrifice for what you want will be the sacrifice. And I think while Mars is in Cancer, it can be grappling with those sacrifices or the wants, because there's it's water, there's pull, and there's emotions or family. But once he gets into Leo, it's all about what you want.
Yes.
And once that sort of 6-week cycle of Mars being in Leo is done, then it's done.
Yes.
Have you kind of allied yourself, or have you got your ducks lined up now for what you want? And I think that's an important part is and here's me with all my own Mars.
You're standing very Mars in Cancer right now, Cass.
And my sun being 4 degrees, I'm also within Mars's bounds in terms of my own sun in Cancer. So yeah, I'm a bit Marsy.
Marsy. So Mars, just to give some details here, Mars will go into Leo, I've got around the 19th of July, and then it's about a week later that Mars will get to the Kazimi with the sun. And Mars is in Leo until about the 4th or 5th of September. So that's the sort of 6-week period that we're talking about here.
And so that's a real window to, plant those proverbial seeds and to, go for the things that motivate you or excite you or, give you that boost. But like that garden, you can't plant roses over weeds. And so it's the weeding time, whether it's your boiling water or your spray, So again, and, Mars is that surgeon's knife, as you said, Kel. So what do you need to cut from your life? Literally.
Literally. So what things do you need to stop doing? What comforts or pacifiers are you using? I'm thinking with Mars in Cancer, like food or other kind of lazy, Mars in Cancer can be a little bit, it's I always say with Mars in a water sign, mood affects motivation. And 100%. Can you manage that mood, or are you at the mercy of your mood? And that could be some of the habits or the patterns that people could potentially be breaking or letting go of now as Mars is winding down this longer 2-year cycle.
And I've often, said to many people over the years, it's like if you wait till you feel like doing something, or if you wait till you're in the mood to do something, you're not doing anything. You're not going to achieve anything. Like, how many people, probably apart from you and I, Kel, and, many other people that do what they love, there's not very many people in life that wake up in the morning and go, I actually feel like going to work today.
Well, look, and I think the fallacy is that even when you work in a job you love, like you and I have worked very hard to do, there are still components of the job. I hate doing my filing. So I have this stack of papers, client papers. I love making notes on my client charts, and I'm totally old school, and I keep, some files. And so there are, even when you love the work you do, it's very rare to love every component about the work that you do.
There's always mundane elements to everything, isn't there?
And I did want to riff off something you said earlier, Cass, about Mars, about discipline and, drive and determination. Like, they're some of the most functional expressions of Mars that we don't often remember when we're thinking about anger or passion or what have you. Yeah. And this really came up for me recently when I was talking with my group of mentoring students around the Mars-Saturn opposition. And, that had a lot of negative press. And many of us had actually found it to be an incredibly productive time. And I know for me, I absolutely slayed through God knows how much stuff at that point. And I did hear that from a few other people. So I think that is important to remember with Mars, that it is the tool that helps power you forward. It's like the engine room, essentially.
Yeah. I guess one of the ways I describe it, we have our lunar phases, and that's like that intrinsic motivation, the slab of the house. But the Mars by sign, by synodic cycle and, or by aspect in some respects too, describes more about, well, when your feet hit the floor in the morning, how do you approach your life? How do you approach your day? I have Taurus, so it starts with food. I gotta eat, like, straight up. And,
yes.
So,
that's so interesting, because I have Mars in Aquarius, so an air sign, and mine always starts with words. I either wake up thinking about a reply to an email or a blog post, and I almost don't even stop for tea or water. I go immediately to the machine. Or I wake up fretting about an email I forgot to reply to. So it's often words. I'm often at my computer first, and then sometimes I'm at my computer for 2 hours first thing in the morning, and then I'm like, oh my God, I have to go and eat. But Mars in Taurus would not bypass the kitchen quite so.
Sometimes I lay in bed, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to eat? Like,
oh my gosh.
And then that excites me to get out of bed.
I often wake up basically talking, and my poor husband, I'm like, oh my God, blah, 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 right out of the bed in the morning. And he's like, I have not had 6 cups of coffee yet. How can you have so much to say? And that's interesting. So the element or the modality or what have you of Mars, how you like when your feet hit the ground in the morning, what is it that you're kind of wanting to tackle?
Probiotic coffee machine on. These are just a little, I love Mars. If someone had to ask me, what's my favorite planet, it's Mars. I love him. And
okay.
Yeah. And I guess, when I think of Mars, like, I think of movies like, 300 and, For Sparta. It's like so strong and so like...
It's like, what are these movies? I've never heard of these movies.
I'm thinking, it's like all or nothing, do or die, like put your body on the line, and
and all of your Mars in Taurus stuff. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, with that, square Saturn in Leo by minutes. Like,
well, that's the other thing too for you, isn't it? That very tight opposition. Square. The very tight square between Mars and Saturn.
And for me, in my life, that manifests in terms of my sport, powerlifting, and so lifting heavy things.
I almost think that's a remediation for Mars Saturn, especially in the fixed signs. Mars in Taurus, I think particularly like metal and iron and the weight, like pardon?
It's not just listening to heavy metal, I have to lift it too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because my Mars in an air sign doesn't get any of it. But I've seen this with other Mars in Taurus people, like working with iron or lifting weight, like the metal. It's almost a beautiful remediation for that Mars in Taurus.
Oh, yeah. It sort of makes the immovable movable, to lift something heavy and overcome that, just put that, without kind of going on and on and on about it. But, putting that power, that transference of power through the bar just feels so Mars Saturn to me, and to sort of pick up something that, felt, that is literally Saturn, 2-3 times my body weight, and I pick it up, and then you get that exhilaration of overcoming it. So
it's how I feel when I've slayed a 3,000 word article.
I get that too.
Right? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, but I guess I've got so much air and earth, and I need that outlet of both. So, so hopefully I could go on about powerlifting for a long time.
I know.
Now, but I won't.
Cool. So, Cass, anything else you want to say about Mars in Leo and the Mars Kazemi?
Not really, but I just want to really invite everybody to just contemplate, their Cancer house. So what house rules Cancer, and not so much plucking. I mean, for me, it's my second house, so I don't want to cut anything away from that, especially when it's being activated. But it's also, where can you harness your motivation or your direction? And this is Mars is that arrow. It's that, the aim, okay, or actually arrow is probably a bit more sage, but, where do you actually want to, go into battle, so to speak? And what tool, how do you need to refine your tools to do that? What do you need to, like, say, for example, if you're doing a whole lot of tasks, I guess, I am actually sort of reducing some of my work commitments in some capacities that aren't really where I want to be focused. And that, it's, I guess that sort of return on investment in terms of my time. And so I have been sort of sifting some stuff through that. And therefore I could carry that lighter load into my third house. And so for some people it might be, if it's your 10th house, if you've got, what would it be? Aries rising. So it might be about, what do you need to cut away from work-wise? So you can maybe put a little bit more effort into your industry networking, or networking with people, or even your friendships, and the things you like to do for pleasure and fun. So it's, each house has a carry on into the next one. And so where do you need to, I guess,
so basically, like organizing,
process.
in the Cancer house, so that you can then be well prepared to kind of do the fresh start and seed planting in the Leo house.
Mars is very contemplative at the moment in his dark cycle and in a water sign, so it's emotionally contemplative. And so I guess, feel your feelings, like.
And so there's, sorry, go.
And I guess on the flip side, don't let them drag you down as well, which can be a bit Mars and Cancer-y too. As you were saying there, the ebb and flow of their motivations can, or their emotions can define their motivation. So it's, ponder, process, let go, so you can, move forward. I'm really looking forward to, of course, I'm a Cancerian, and I do enjoy planets in Cancer.
Yes.
But I'm kind of over it now.
You're ready for Mars in Leo.
Ready to dry out and power on.
So for people listening, there's two distinct versions of Mars we're sort of talking about here. It's the current Mars in Cancer, which is like the balsamic moon Mars. And then we're going to have the Mars Kazimi, or conjunct the sun in Leo, which is like the new moon Mars. And as you're saying just there, the difference between the water and the endings versus the Leo and the beginnings, it's that idea of, not getting stuck in the feelings right now, but taking whatever actions you need to, so that you can really, I love that drying out when planets go into fire signs. They just become a little bit, when we say dry from a temperament perspective, it is more of a separative energy. It helps things become clear, where are the limits, where are the endings, wetness. I always think like a big pile of papers is sort of a wet thing where everything is mushed and muddled together. But when things dry out, they become organized and ordered again. And that clarity is so helpful for movement.
Like an alcoholic is sort of Mars in Cancer. They go to rehab to dry out, so they can get their life organized, or their emotions and their mind and their body too, of course. But I think there's we've had a lot of water in the sky of late, and so we might sort of reconvene at some point in the near future and talk about, oh God, we've had too much fire, we've had too much fire. It's an extreme. And one way I sort of liken the sort of the water to fire was a personal experience. My progress moon was in Pisces when I had my son, and maybe like about 12 months to 16 months into since having him, I went from my progress moon from Pisces into Aries. And so it was like literally I emerged from this new mum fog where my whole life was on the clock of this tiny person and their needs. And then all of a sudden, going into this fire energy, I was taking action. I was making decisions. I was like the old Cass again. And so the element, the movement of element from water to fire, I think is one of the most noticeable of the changes of elements.
It is. Yeah, I have to agree. It's going from like cold and wet to hot and dry. So it's a very contrasted shift.
Yeah.
And I know for me personally, when my progressed sun moved out of Pisces and into Aries, that is, and you see it, progressed sun going from Scorpio to Sag or Cancer to Leo. There is this real upswing in confidence and energy and drive. For me personally, I remember thinking that was when I first started to play around with the idea of saying no, which had been completely foreign to me before that point. And so it's a good point, actually, Cass, how distinct water to fire shifts are. So that's something we can all kind of look forward to, I guess, in this latter part of July.
And, just that regal confidence that Leo brings. And, and Cancer is tough. Cancer is resilient, but, to move from into confidence with that, I think is also an important takeaway of the changes of sign. And, the dry and separative qualities of Leo is to, maybe separate from the family a little bit and individuate, not shine in your own right. Take that chance and or take that risk and don't allow avoid the maybe the ideas or the opinions of family or your support network, and go, well, no, this is actually what feels right for me and what I really need to do right now, and go for it, So we can sometimes be overly influenced by who supports us or who we're emotionally connected to. So, just to be, the lion in the Wizard of Oz, finally getting that confidence is a really great analogy for, a timid lion is really not. It's sort of like a paradox to his role in the ecosystem, So,
No, that's great. And I mean, I was just looking too that, of course, Mars coming up to conjunct the sun, going into a new phase himself, and also shifting from an evening star Mars into a morning star Mars.
Nice.
And morning star planets are sort of the more bold or assertive or extroverted version of themselves. So if you work with sort of morning star Mercury or Venus, but morning star Mars as well. And certainly a more direct iteration of Mars, and that's sort of going to be emerging August, September, October. So we're definitely coming out. Yeah, so I guess people can tell us in the comments below how they're finding this, what they're noticing, even which house it's going to affect in your chart. And if you've got any questions, we'll be able to check back in. And the best way, Cass, any final words before we wrap up today?
And the thing is, I'm assuming most people will know that, this Mars renewal, this is a once in every 2-year event. But it's also about, it's not like it has this Kazemi or this renewal in the same house or in the same sign for you. So it's definitely an opportunity to really hone in on the topics of your Leo house and how can I really, plant those seeds to maximize that next 2-year cycle.
Yes, that's really key, Cass, because even though Mars does go through this renewal process every 2 years, it is in a different sign and therefore in a different house. So the fact that Mars is being renewed is great. We get that every 2 years, but Mars conjunct the sun in Leo, we don't get that every 2 years. So this is very specific energy for the Leo house or for the Leo part of your chart. Are you looking forwards or backwards in the ephemeris?
We're such ephemeris girls, aren't we?
I know, we're total nerds.
Yeah, like I actually wound up some of my students last night before we have a bit of a break, and showing them, my ephemeris looks like it's sort of been eaten by rats, and it's sticky taped together, and even this one, it's if you don't have an ephemeris, you're not an astrologer.
Totally. This is my second one of these. It's only 17 years old. Like, it started in 2000, but I've had to get a second one already. Yeah, it looks like the last time Mars was Kazemi, the sun was probably in Gemini back in kind of mid 2015. And the next time Mars will be Kazemi, where is that going to be? Just kind of tracking here. It might actually be, not sure if it's going to be Cancer or Leo. It might actually, no, it's going to be Virgo in September of 2019. So yeah, so this particular infusion of Mars bold warrior energy coming through in Leo, very unique to the end of July 2017. So
and I mean, this is probably like rolling the ball a little bit forward, but then of course if it's Kazemi and Leo, it'll be retrograde through Aquarius next year, so
so we can yes, we can connect. We'll have to connect again and chat about that, because that'll be super juicy.
Yeah, for you too. And that we'll have to do more weeding at that time, you know.
Yes, so we can look back to now. Okay, cool. So thanks everyone for listening and for checking in with us today. So you can check out Cassandra at cassandratyndall.com, and I'm online at kellysastrology.com. We're also both on Facebook, where you can find us there. We look forward to hearing from you guys, and if you've got any requests about future videos, just let us know in the comments below. Bye for now.
Thanks for having me, Kel. See ya.